you to begin.
Alhamdulillah, Darashuk. Otherwise, it would have been like awkward.
Yes. Okay. Now.
It's 9:46.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of our Hyder TV viewers who are joining us here once again on day 5 of Youth Talk, where we discuss issues relating to the youth. We do apologize for the delay in starting the program. We were experiencing some technical difficulties. However, rest assured we'll be providing of insightful discussion and knowledge and spiritual upliftment for ourselves and for our Hyder TV viewers as well. Continuing with our topic, which is the issues that the youth face in the Western world, and not just to the Western world, now that the culture has gone global. And we are once again honored to have Maulana Raza Hussain Zaidi with us. Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. Thank you for joining us.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So, Maulana, as Muslims in the masjid, my speech is, and I use more religious terms, and I feel spiritually comfortable. So, people ask me how I'm doing. Alhamdulillah. Will you be coming tomorrow? Inshallah, I will be coming tomorrow. And at work, I feel like I'm under a microscope sometimes, especially when I take time out of my day to pray, or when I'm fasting in Ramadan. Sometimes it feels like I'm under a microscope, like people are watching me. They're paying attention to the language that I'm using, the things that I'm saying, or the saying more so than during the year. So is what I'm feeling normal? These two personas being different at the masjid, or being a different Muslim at work? Is this what Islam intended? And is there any precedent in the Quran or in the Sunnah of our Holy Prophet and our A'immah about how to live in a multi world or society where we have both the majority non-believers and the minority believers?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل.
Well, you see, Islam is not just confined to certain parts of the world. It is a universal religion, and it covers all cultures, all dimensions, regardless of your skin color, your background. So basically, Islam has a Sharia set of laws that you are required to follow. So wherever you go, wherever you travel, like I said in previous programs, I don't think there's any contradiction with the Islamic laws, and your professional life. Your professional life should never suffer because of you being a good Muslim. I feel sometimes that there are certain things that are cultural, and those cultural aspects have got nothing to do with the Islamic school of thought. For example, there are certain that have emerged over a period of time amongst the Indians and Pakistanis because of the Hindu majority. So lots of things that you see in our marriages and our weddings, and in our day-to-day life as well, lots of things that we have come to believe that are a part of Islam are not a part of Islam. And when we move to other parts of the world where, let's put it that way, like even if you go to Muslim countries, we find that they're okay with certain things that we had thought were unethical from the point of view of Islam. But then when we object to those things and we say, well, this is wrong, we find certain people find that no, according to Islam, there's nothing wrong with it. So most of the times it is those cultural things also that we ignore, and we need to know our religion. Well, as you already know, the fiqh masala in our Shia Islam is that everybody, it is wajib, it is compulsory upon every Shia Muslim to have the knowledge about, the day-to-day affairs that you have, all of the Sharia in regards to your daily routine. So I feel sometimes it's also part of that thing that is being ignored, and that's one of the things that the reasons why we feel that when we feel that there's a difference of the culture, we put it on religion, and we think that it is because we're Muslims. And sometimes it's not because you're Muslims and Islam has got nothing to do with it. It's because of your cultural backgrounds that you feel the difference amongst the people that you are working with or maybe studying with in any academic institution. So that's one part of it. And the other thing is like when we go to those places in the workplace or the universities, we need to understand that we should not be sorry about who we are. We should not feel bad. We should not feel awkward. In fact, we should be proud of our identity as a Shia Muslim. And there's also kind of like a human psyche when we see that the majority is going and we're going the other way. These days, we're doing a topic in our Islamic Center before iftar and everything, and it is to do with the mentioned in the. So when we were discussing about the Prophet Saleh alayhi salam. So when Saleh approaches his people, and he says to the Qawm Samud, you people are worshipping idols, whereas you should be worshipping your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. These people say that we have been doing that for centuries. All of us have been doing that for centuries. Our fathers and grandfathers, and all of them have been worshipping idols. So now, what's wrong with you? We thought you were a good guy. This is what, according to the Quran, like you were one of us. You were a good guy. What's up with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you? Sometimes when we see the majority doing certain things which are not in line with Islam, we feel like we're kind of like outdated, maybe old school, or maybe we're not fit into this kind of a society. Whereas if you think about it in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere, and He is with us, and He's the closest one to us. He's even to us than we ourselves are to ourselves. So if we consider Him to be everywhere and listening to what we're saying and watching us all the time, the most important thing for us should be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. And then after that, the Imam of our times, Imam Zamana Sahib al-Asr was Zaman Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif. He watches us. Whatever we do, our deeds are presented to him every Thursday. And he's saddened when we do something bad, and he's happy when we do something good. So if we have priorities and we prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything else, even ourselves, then I think you start feeling proud of following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands and also teachings of Ahlul Bayt. That's basically what it is. There's lots of things. It's not just one thing that we were born somewhere else, or like our parents were born somewhere else, and now we are in this Canadian or Western civilization. What do we do in this culture? There are lots of things that are there that you need to look into deeply before making a judgment. So I guess Islam is the solution to each and every thing, and we have an answer to each and every deed that we do, whatever action that we do in the society. And if we're stuck somewhere, Islam has a solution for that.
Jazakallah, yes. Thank you, Maulana. So we do have precedent from the Quran and from the Sunnah, and as you mentioned, it's about, having that faith in Allah and knowing that, we can always turn to Allah for guidance, and we should. And in fact, we must turn to Him for knowing that as well is watching us, is supporting,
Yeah,
and
that
that will
might,
help us.
sorry, let me add what I mean, like, see the majority doing something.
Mhm.
Sometimes people come to believe that it's okay. So the first
Right,
step is it's okay because everybody's doing it. The second step is it's a good thing, and the third step is whoever is not doing it is bad,
mm,
without even thinking that all of these people could be wrong.
right,
And you standing out amongst all of them doing something else was the right one out of all of these people.
right. And sometimes, it is good to be that outstanding person, especially when the people something wrong and doing something bad. And although it seems counterintuitive, but we should be encouraging ourselves first to feel bad about standing out when we are doing something that's bad. Because again, as previous episodes, we are Muslims, we are followers of the Ahlul Bayt, the followers of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Our Imam is uh, he's he's supporting us, he's got our back. So really, even if we are an army of one, we're really not alone. Thank you for that, Maulana. That addresses of living in a multicultural society that we are following and probably following our Islamic teachings and beliefs. The second part comes to, and sometimes, when I'm at the masjid, I get feedback from other mu'mineen about the level of my about perhaps some of the things that they've heard about me, or some of the things that I've heard them say about me, and I have to face critiques, criticism, and I have no that the person and it makes me feel like I'm not Muslim enough to fit in at the masjid, or perhaps I'm lacking in some way. Um, how should I handle this feedback from the mu'mineen at the masjid about my level of religiosity? And how can I, sense how religious or how spiritually uplifted I am in the masjid, and carry that energy with me into my social, that's at school or at work?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, um, I think, in my opinion, you have to be sure what you're doing, whatever you're doing, is in the eyes of Allah, and it's a thing.
Hmm.
The whole world says that you're a good person, and your imams, alayhi salam, he appreciates what you. That's what counts. So our concern around Allah, we're just able to do, follow the religion, and we have the hope of Ahlul Bayt, the love of Ahlul Bayt in our heart. Everybody's got a conscience, so we're clear in our conscience, and we think that we're okay. Uh, we doing all of those things. It does not make any difference what people say. Sometimes when, well, you were born and raised, you might not be level. People might think that somebody who speaks really good Urdu is a very good Muslim, right? Whereas somebody who mashallah, your Urdu is really good, but there's whose Urdu is not good. They're very good Muslims, and they're very good Shias, and Urdu people who are not Muslims, right? So if you have a Hindu who speaks uh, Urdu, would you call him a good moment? So it's got nothing to do with their language barriers. They're like cultural things. They're, the that we have from back. And our the hadith from Muhammad teach us, if you look at all the riwayah, you never judge one. You are in no position to judge anyone. If you are, you're supposed to judge yourself and consider others to be, and not vice versa. not be the person who's saying, well, I am something really great, and this guy walking up to me in this masjid, he's not up to the standards, he's not a good Muslim. He should be able to say that. Even ulama, for example, no, I mean, like me with this imam, I have a license from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that says, well, he's a good moment? Do I have a certificate? I don't. So I don't know. I mean, you could be 1,000 times better. The people listening to us right now could be 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times better than me. So it is about me. It's not about others when we are making that. We're nobody to make any judgment. Like if we see our brother, even when we see our brother Mu'min committing a bad thing, cover it. And we should not tell anybody else, because if we do, it is ghibat. It is deep down in our heart. When we think about that person, we should say, he asked for forgiveness of Allah Ta'ala, and Allah has forgiven him, and he's a much better person even when he committed the sin. Like, for example, a person stands right before the Imam of his time, and he says, I will not let you go. That is height of evilness, I would say. You know, if you then that very moment, it is the Imam guide and the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that nur penetrates the heart and the soul of Hur, which makes him the in literal meanings, Hur means free. So Imam Hussain was, when Hur was martyred at the time of his martyrdom, Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, Ya Hur, Imam was referring to his life and his back, but you never know what someone who's, even if you on the wrong path, on the wrong side of the aisle, even if you see someone standing there, you never know when he's going to be on this side and you might be on the other side. So we should never be the judge of anybody. That should not be the case. No, that is yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of judgment that does occur, and a lot of it comes from a very place. In general terms, yes, you're absolutely right. If you're is halal and actively avoiding what's impermissible, other people have to say, and those clear-cut guidelines, Maulana. So thank you. However, as they say, the devil is in the details, right? So I'm at the masjid, and I'm talking to somebody. I get a comment along the lines of, "Oh, you're not married yet? Such a good family. Your father is." Or why aren't you in the front row of Matam during Majlis? You're a man. You should be in the front row. Or look, sister, you don't even speak your mother tongue. You should learn how to speak your mother tongue. When the reality is that my mother tongue is English, because I'm here. But we get this sort of criticism, feedback, and it's you accept the cushion, but then you squeeze on you, and it can be quite hurtful. Almost, I think the term in English is like backhanded comments that from time to time do come up. And dealing with these, I've experienced them. Brothers and sisters, the young, they're mashallah patient. However, see them at the masjid the very next day, and it becomes a barrier to attending at these programs. If I'm somebody who's facing this sort of critiquing in Islam, what would be an appropriate Islamic response to something like this?
Let me tell you something. People have got their own way of expressing themselves, love that they have for Ahlul Bayt and some people might want to do matam, some might just want to sit in the corner and cry over Imam Hussain alayhi salam. everybody's got their own ways. So, Azadari is not just one segment that you do, a whole, a sea of, lots of things that you could do, and you could reach your goal by just doing that. And I mean, Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are so generous. If you might see some people, when the people take off their shoes, and he just goes and he thinks, well, these shoes are the shoes of the Azadars, and I'm going to sit here. This is my place. And then the other guy, you see that he's picking up the shoes and he's like placing them properly in the shoe rack. And so he thinks that he's serving Ahlul Bayt by doing that. Some other guy, he just gets up and he wants to offer tea or something, and somebody's doing some voluntary work. The other guys are going to go and do them. So it just depends. And you're nobody to do the judgment. It's the Ahlul Bayt who are going to do it. Let me tell you a little story. I was in Mashhad. When people, I was going to the Haram, and like the people to Iran, they know that if you so it is kind of like a ride share. Sit in the car as well. They're all sitting there. Probably in his late teens, and one of his friends was sitting right, and he's driving, and suddenly he turns on the music. The music is loud. He looks at me and he says, like in Iran, they say Haji Agha. Over here we say Maulana. In halal, in musiqi halal, he asked me in Persian, like, is this music halal? I said no. And started making fun of me. I didn't care because I'm going to die. And by the look of them, of how they look like, they've got earrings in their ears, and they've got like special kind of a look. So he asked me a question. He says, why did you say it's halal? It's not halal. And why do you listen to this music? I said no. He said, why? So I said, I was afraid Imam Raza alayhi salam and his father Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam, maybe I would have also listened to this. But because I'm scared, I'm not doing that. And you know what he did? He said, oh my God, he jams the brake and he pulls over and he says, why did you mention the name of Imam Raza? He's hitting his head on the again and again. He got emotional and he said, why did you have to mention the name? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? And then the when me until he dropped a word. The only thing he would say, why did you have to mention Imam Raza?
Right.
And that was a shock to me. I was thinking I couldn't relate this guy with Imam Raza. Like he's got Shiism. He's got nothing to do with it. But that very day, in the evening when I went to the Haram to do it, second time when I went to do the ziyarah, I saw these guys standing right in front of this Zari, crying and calling him, Ya Imam Raza, Ya Imam Raza. I said, they're 100 times better than me.
Subhanallah.
These people, to think that he's got no connection with Imam Raza. Listens to something, and I know, I mean, he's where his soul will like travel up to the level where I don't know what's gonna happen to him, how he takes it, like with if somebody listens to Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, you will take it differently, right? So there are people who take things differently because of the circumstances, because of their intelligence.
You're absolutely right.
So you don't know. And you don't know who's who.
It's so important to make sure that we don't approach people and approach our interactions with people from a judgmental perspective. And I guess for the youth that are watching, I think the main message things to make sure that you're not perpetuating the behaviors that bother you or make you feel less of a Muslim onto others as well. He's approaching you and making you bad. with a comment making, please don't turn around. Instead, look to your imam for help, for guidance. Look within yourself and pray the person's guidance. Thank you very much, Hyder TV viewers, for joining us today on.
Just one last thing. There's a verse in the Quran, Ya ibadi alladhina asrafu ala anfusihim rahmatullah. Addresses the people of making the judgment. Allah says, if you have sinned, and la taqnutu min rahmatillah. Look up. Don't be disappointed and think. Don't be disappointed and don't think that you. So Allah, and this, you find people in the masjid, in the house of Allah. Wise.
Jazakallah, Maulana. Thank you so much. And for tomorrow, 9:30 p.m. sharp, Youth Talk, exclusively here on Hyder TV. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.